the Polynesian Navigators, cosmic knowledge on open waters. It is the middle of the night in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There is no land in any direction, none for 1,000 miles. A long canoe moves through the dark, two hulls joined by a deck, one curved sail, shaped like the claw of a crab. Around 20 people are on board. There is no map, no compass, no clock, not one written word anywhere on the board. At the back sits one man. He has not slept properly in 3 weeks. He is watching a star come up out of the sea. And he knows exactly where he is, how far he has come, how far is left, which way to turn. He is not guessing. He is reading, and everything he is reading out of his own head. Before we sail with him, remember where we have been. Long ago, our earliest ancestors looked up and noticed that the sky repeats itself. That was the beginning. In Mesopotamia, they began writing the sky down night after night on wet clay. In Babylon, they used those old records to work out what the sky would do next. Egypt built an entire kingdom around the heavens and started its year by the return of one bright star. India turned the sky into mathematics and then handed the star map to ordinary people, where it is still in daily use today. China kept watch on the heavens for thousands of years without ever letting the watch stop. The Maya, on the far side of the world with no neighbors to ask, counted the sky into calendars that outlived their own cities. Greece built the sky as a machine of turning spheres and then went outside and measured it, the size of the earth, the distance to the moon. And Persia gathered all of it into one royal book of tables so that anyone, anywhere could calculate the heavens for any night they chose. Now look at that list again. Clay, stone, paper, ink. Every single one of them made the sky permanent. They put it somewhere outside themselves, where it would keep. Tonight we meet astronomers who did nothing of the kind. No tablets, no temples, no tables, no writing at all, not one mark anywhere, ever. Their entire astronomy lived inside trained human memory, and they bet their lives on it, out on the biggest empty space on Earth. The Pacific Ocean is the largest single thing on the face of our planet. It is bigger than all the dry land in the world put together. You could drop every continent into it, all of them, and there would still be water left over. Scattered across all that water are islands, tiny ones, specks. Draw the ocean on a page, and most of them would be thinner than the line you drew it with. And people found them, not by accident, again and again on purpose, and then sailed all the way home to tell everybody how. From Hawaii in the north, to New Zealand in the south, to Easter Island far out in the east. The triangle between those three is wider than any empire that has ever existed. They filled it in canoes, with no metal, no instruments and no writing, centuries before European ships were willing to sail out of sight of their own coast. It was the last great spreading out of humankind across this planet, and it was done by reading the sky. So how do you steer when there is nothing at all to steer by? Stand on a beach at night and watch one star climb out of the water. Notice the exact spot on the horizon where it came up. Come back tomorrow night. It comes up in the same spot. Come back in 10 years. Still the same spot. A star rises where it rises. It always has. That one plain fact is the foundation of everything that follows. So the navigators took the circle of the horizon all the way around and cut it into named places, like the numbers around the edge of a clock face. Each named place is a house. A house is where one particular star climbs out of the water on one side or drops back into it on the other. In this system, the stars do not really belong to the sky. They belong to the rim of the world. Every one of them has an address. Now you can steer. Point the nose of the canoe at the house where your star comes up and hold it there. But a star will not stay down on the horizon. It climbs. Within an hour or two, it is too high overhead to steer by at all. So you let that one go and you take the next star that rises out of the very same house behind it. And then the next. And the next after that. A whole line of stars coming up one at a time through the same doorway all night long. That chain is called a star path. You are not following a star. You are following a queue of them in the order you memorized. A navigator carries dozens of these paths in his head, one for every island he might ever need, in every season, going out and coming back. Which brings us to the real marvel of this episode. It is not the sky, it is the mind. All of it, every house, every star, every path, every season, memorized. There was nothing anywhere to look any of it up in. Training started in childhood. A child chosen for it would spend years being drilled over and over by an older navigator. The sky was taught as chants, long rhythmic lists sung again and again until they ran as automatically as a song you cannot get out of your head. The family histories were part of the lesson too, because those carried the voyages inside them. Who sailed where, how long it took, what they passed on the way. Pebbles laid on the sand stood in for stars. A ring of stones around a seated student became the whole horizon, and he sat in the middle of it and turned. In one part of the Pacific, teachers lashed thin sticks together into small open frames with little shells tied on here and there. The curved sticks showed the way ocean waves bend and cross. The shells were islands. It was a chart, but a chart for the classroom. It was never carried out to sea. By the day you finally sailed, the chart was supposed to be inside you. A trained navigator was a library that could walk onto a boat. Now, the stars were only one instrument out of many, and the sky can be covered by cloud for days. So the navigator learned to read the ocean itself, with his hands and his body. Steady winds push long, low waves across open water. Those waves roll on for thousands of miles, from a direction that holds the same for months on end. Lie down flat in the bottom of the hull, and you can feel them lift the boat, one after another, always at the same angle underneath you. That is a compass you can use with your eyes shut. Now put an island in their way. The waves cannot go through it. They bend around both sides, meet again behind it, and cross each other. That crossed, choppy pattern spreads out far beyond the island itself, much further out than you could ever see the land. So you feel the waves begin to argue with one another. And you know, there is something out there sitting just past the edge of the world. Daylight has its own signs. A single cloud that sits still while every other cloud drifts by is a cloud standing on top of something. A cloud with a faint green tint on its underside is holding the reflection of a shallow lagoon. And then there are the birds. Some seabirds sleep out on the ocean. Others have to come back to land every night. Learn the second kind. In the evening, they all fly the same way, going home. So you go where they go. There is one more piece to this, and it is the most beautiful one of all. Some stars pass exactly overhead, straight up, directly above the mast, and then down the other side. Which star passes straight overhead depends entirely on how far north or south you are on the ocean. So every island has a star of its own. The star that stands right on top of it and on top of nowhere else. The star belonging to Hawaii is a big orange one of the brightest lights in the entire sky. Sail until that star swings directly over your head and you are standing on Hawaii's own sea road. Turn, run along it, and the island has to come to you. That is your distance, north or south, worked out with no instrument whatsoever, just a head tipped back, and the memory of which star belongs to home. Now, the uncomfortable part of the story. For a long time, outsiders refused to believe any of this had happened. Scholars far away argued that the islands must have been settled by accident, that canoes were blown off course, drifted for weeks, and washed up wherever the sea decided. It was a tidy theory. It also happened to say that the people of the Pacific had never really done anything clever. It was wrong. But proving it wrong turned out to be very hard because by the 20th century, the knowledge was almost gone. New empires, new religions, new ships, and printed charts. Nobody needed a wayfinder anymore, so nobody trained one. An entire science, one that had never been written down anywhere on Earth, was down to a handful of old men on a few small islands. Then, in the 1970s, a group in Hawaii built a great double canoe in the old shape and decided to settle the argument at sea. But there was nobody left in Hawaii who could navigate it. So they asked a master navigator from a tiny island far away to the west, one of the last men alive still holding the whole system in his head. He agreed to teach outsiders. His own tradition did not really allow that. He did it anyway because he could see the alternative. If he kept the knowledge to himself, it would simply die with him. In May of 1976, the canoe left Hawaii for Tahiti. No compass, no charts, no instruments of any kind. Around 2,500 miles of open ocean ahead of it. 34 days later, it arrived. Thousands of people came down to the shore to meet it. A thing the world had been told was impossible had just quietly tied up at the dock, and the drift theory died that afternoon. Since then, the art has been deliberately rebuilt, piece by piece, new navigators trained, New canoes built, more voyages, further each time, and eventually all the way around the world. It is taught to children again now. A chain that came within one lifetime of snapping was tied back together with barely a knot to spare. So, what did the Pacific add to our long story of the sky? Everybody before them made the heavens permanent. They cut the sky into stone, pressed it into clay, painted it on walls, ruled it into columns of ink so that it could never be lost. The navigators of the Pacific did the exact opposite. They kept the whole of it alive inside people. That is a frightening way to store a science. One bad generation, and it is gone forever, and very nearly was. But it is also the only way that lets you carry your entire astronomy 3000 miles from anywhere in an open boat with no shelves, no ink, and no room. They proved that a working astronomy does not need one single written mark to be real, to be exact, and to be good enough to bet your children's lives on. And every time a navigator sits at the back of that canoe today with empty hands and an open sky, the proof gets made all over again. But there is another way to make sure the sky is never forgotten, almost the opposite way. Back near the very beginning of our story, in the cold green west of Europe, another people who wrote nothing down found a completely different answer. They built their calendar out of stones weighing 50 tons each so that it could never ever be forgotten. Next time, we go and stand inside it